Whether people like it or not, leg locks are now a fundamental part of jiu-jitsu, especially competition jiu-jitsu, and it's still one of the places where people are lacking in knowledge the most and also the most fearful of. Fear of leg locks and fear of injury often comes from a lack of information. When I got my purple belt and started entering advanced divisions, I remember before my first Grappling Industries, which is just a local tournament, I remember crying because I was so scared of heel hooks because I just didn't know anything about them. For me, it really helped to educate myself about leg locks. And fundamentally, just like the rest of jiu-jitsu, being good at leg locks is first about positional awareness, knowing where you are and knowing the advantages and disadvantages of each of these leg locking positions. So in this video, I'm going to break down the 7 major leg entanglements that I think a beginner in leg locks needs to know in order to be just competent and relatively safe. The 7 major leg entanglements that I like to go over in my classes are, first, the main one, single leg X. I like to show single leg X first because people will usually learn this as part of their regular open guard. So it's kind of like a good natural transition into the leg entanglements. From the single leg X, you'll see some people attacking ankle locks from here, but most of the time you'll be looking at people who are passing the leg over into saddle, butterfly ashi, and 50-50. I would say these 3 on top of single leg X would be the most common entanglements that you see in gi and no gi, and probably any gym would find them relatively safe to play. Even if someone doesn't know what they're doing, you would find yourself in these positions, sometimes even accidentally from the open guard. When we talk about these 3 major positions in the saddle is a little bit iffy in the gi depending on your rule set, but we've got 2 major sub positions that you might see. Honey stick, this is a pretty big, as far as I know, I'm not a big 10th planet person, but all the 10th planet people I have ever met knew the honey stick, which is kind of a counter to the saddle. And then double trouble, where you're controlling both of your partner's feet. From the saddle, probably the main submission you'll see people going for is the inside heel hook, but you'll also see people doing knee bars and other funny things off of these counters of the honey stick and double trouble. From the butterfly ashi, someone will be going to butterfly ashi to do some sort of variation of an ankle lock, spinning inside or spinning outside. The 50-50 is actually very dynamic. You can see I've had these other fractions up there. You can transition to other leg entanglements like 90-10 and 80-20. And then 70-30, I would say, is more of a transition used to get to someone's back. You'll see people use 50-50 a lot to sweep, to control the pace of the position. And then in no-gi, of course, there are the inside heel hooks. From the 50-50, you can do any of the major leg lock submissions, such as the toe hold, the knee bar, ankle lock, aoki lock, reverse aoki lock. You are in an exact symmetry with your partner, so know that your partner can switch it up on you anytime if you're not diligent with your foot position. A little bit more niche in leg entanglements, but I think really important to know, would be outside ashi, when both your feet are on the outside of your partner's hips, inside ashi, which is essentially a reap, and then rear ashi. And rear ashi may look less like a leg entanglement, but basically your partner's full leg is between your thighs and it's almost like a reversed half guard. A lot of people will get knee bars and toe holds from there. The reason why I put outside ashi after all of these other positions is just that both of your feet are on the outside. So if your partner gets up, they're close to a leg drag position where they can pass your guard if you don't place your knees correctly. In the outside ashi, there's strong heel hooks and ankle locks, but I would say that this is fairly risky for most beginners to play when they haven't developed guard retention and good framing yet. Inside ashi is quite niche because you can't play it in the gi at all in most rule sets, but I did include it because it's the best place to show the reap. And once the reap is in play, then you have a very strong controlling position to attack either toe holds, Z-locks, or heel hooks. Finally, the rear ashi. Again, I included the rear ashi because it is a leg entanglement, even though it doesn't look like the rest because you're not facing each other. Almost always your rear is facing your partner's head, but you have, again, full control of your partner's hip line, knee line, and toes. And so this is a great place to either transition directly to the top reverse half or get a toe hold or knee bar. Ultimately, leg locks, just like the rest of jiu-jitsu, is about understanding your position. Like I mentioned, I was really scared of leg locks, but it ended up being one of the parts of jiu-jitsu that I studied the most, so much because I didn't want to fear it. And now it's become one of the main parts of my game and probably the domain of jiu-jitsu that I know a little bit more than the average competitor. I highly recommend for anyone out there who is serious about jiu-jitsu that at least you familiarize yourself with these 7 positions and even just cycle through drilling the transition from single leg X to saddle to 50-50 to inside ashi, etc. And repeating those names to yourself, even just brute force memorization of knowing where you are, is going to alleviate a lot of the fear of the unknown. A lot of people, when they first start leg entanglements, all they see is a bunch of leg spaghetti, and that's totally normal, and you need to be patient with yourself. I started studying leg locks at the beginning of my purple belt journey, and I got my first leg lock in competition when I was a brown belt 2.5 years later. So it was 2.5 years of deliberately training legs until I got them in competition. And of course, some people will take a much shorter time, and some people will take a longer time. I just wanted to show that leg locks are quite a nebulous domain until you start breaking it down into these smaller specific positions. Once you get to know all these specific positions, I would say leg locks are actually a huge advantage, not just because you can attack submissions without having to pass the guard or sweep, but when you're able to knock an opponent down to their hip, you don't have to bear any of their weight. And as long as you can control that position of wedging and entangling your feet, it can save you a lot of energy and be very efficient. And efficiency ultimately is a lot of what jiu-jitsu is about. If you guys want me to go any deeper into some of these leg entanglements, please let me know in the comments. Thank you everybody for leaving all the suggestions in my previous videos. If you want to see me break down any of my leg locks in competition recently, also let me know in the comments.